I would be the first one to love to take on such a project, but make the economic model work and be the first ones to jump on the.
Well, they were the ones who brought South Park to India too. No?
That was Viacom.
Viacom, okay. Can we have the last two questions? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Siddharth. I run a private equity fund in Mumbai focusing on media. My question is, some of the largest franchises that you've seen that have been created either in animation, live action, or real cinema was based on the novels that one has, grown up reading, and I'm talking of international content. So whether it was DC or Marvel. Similarly, in India, we grew up reading a lot of these, so whether it was Amar Chitra Kathas or Chacha Chaudhary's or Tinkles of the world. How come we're not creating content for that in the animation space today? Other than the Indian mythology, I don't see any big content coming out of that space. So to the content creators, any
we just created Shaktiman in animation. And there are many more coming. He talked about...
so, Amar Chitra Katha is a good example. ACK Media actually has attempted to come out with some of its content. As to why is it not more prevalent and more successful is something you need to talk to the ACK guys. And that's a conversation you and I probably need to have offline, especially since you're Mr. Moneybags.
And you should look at Liquid Comics.
ACK has changed hands a couple of times. You and I can have an offline conversation about that.
If you're an owner of ACK, then we'll reserve our judgment. But I think, look, the one thing is that what Marvel and DC have done exceptionally well is that they've continued to innovate their characters. They haven't just put out the same characters, the same comics from the 1960s. They've updated the storylines, the relevancy. They've continued to innovate and continued to push the boundaries of the characters in every generation. So I think it's not just about having a character that's a legacy character. It's about really, building that character over years and years and nurturing the franchise, which certainly, I think that at Chota Beam they've learned a lot about how to build a multi-platform franchise and ultimately how to innovate on that franchise as they go forward. So I think, having a property is one thing, keeping the property relevant is another. And we see this in the Japanese world as well, as a great example. So yes, I think that's probably what you'd look at. The second thing I'd say is you have a real challenge with public domain characters. I think when you go into public domain and anything that's pure public domain, right, and ultimately you're executing it the best, on a contrast, Disney has made a career out of this, whether it's a Cinderella, whether it's a Snow White. They've tapped into public domain and they've executed well because of the execution was fairly unique. The visual representations of the characters were trademarked and copyrighted. They had a way of approaching the style and the narrative of doing that. Now, I think when you come here, you can look at a library like an ACK, and I think you can say that they've done a good job of representing a lot of the original myths, but ultimately I think that you have a very challenging time in those myths because it's been very literal and true to form. We did a version of the Ramayana. I'll give you an example of that. It's a futuristic sci-fi tale. The basic heart of Ramayana is there, but for us it's more Star Wars. So the interpretations, the characters, the visual looks and everything there is very clearly trademarked in the States. It's very protected because of the way it is. And in fact, we're developing that as a live action film right now with the producers of 300 and the Academy Award winning producer of Crash. And it's being treated as a international type of production that we're trying to put together, and long road to get there to make any film. But the execution of it was the key to it, So I do think it's more than just, we have a great library, we've had these comics around. It's, have they innovated? The same kid today who gets his, who's maybe the one guy running to the store to buy that comic at one time, at one generation, is who's getting it from his grandmother today, may not see it the same way when he's looking at, Ben 10 on television and seeing some of the best of the world around the place. He has to see something that makes his jaws drop.
Thanks. Can we have that question? No? Okay. Any other question? Yeah. Let's make that the last question. Yeah.
While creating content, you talked about commercially viable content on one side, so it's important to protect it in terms of your IP. But on the other side, you need commercial viability and you need the eyeballs and you need the TRPs, right? So where do you draw the line between copyright and copyleft? So is it okay if on a YouTube, for example, which does have a lot of programs, if you put up content and you have a whole lot of other people actually putting up that content, would you be okay with it? I know there is a point at which you could monetize it and take it on and claim the content, but where do you draw the line between copyright and copyleft?
Look, I think I'd be the happiest guy on the street if I saw a bunch of people pirating Chakra t-shirts, all right? And when you're starting off, what you want is people to want your character and want your content. So I think, phase one of this is, do you build a brand that matters, that's resonant, that people care about. You know, copyright protection and protecting your IP is very, very important. But the first most important thing is, do you have a character that people want? So, you know, I think when you're going into the world of YouTube and others, and I think we're finding this more and more, you know, one of the great things that we see in movies today is that, and I forget which filmmaker was at the forefront, it may have been at Transformers. The first Transformers film, they were very much aggressively online, catering to the fans, showing them, asking them, trying to get feedback while they were making the film, because they want to co-opt these guys into the experience. And I think more and more online, if you look at what Machinima does very well, they built a channel on YouTube that essentially has gone into a network on YouTube that has over 1 billion views a month right now. And what they've done is they've essentially created programming, but then given that programming into the hands of their audience, let them slice and dice it, let them make of it, let them make their own shows reacting to the programming and engage with them in a whole different way. And as a result, what they've created was essentially a company that some people are evaluating certainly in the hundreds of millions, but some people are evaluating even higher. You know, Awesomeness TV did the same example, just sold to DreamWorks for over $120 million by building an audience of engagement. So I think there's very different tactics. There's no one road that has all the answers. And I think all we have are the questions, and we've just got to break a lot of eggs and try and figure out different models that work.
Yeah, and today it's up to the producer how much to expose on what medium. Second thing is that YouTube is a very evolved medium. If you are a partner on YouTube, and if somebody else has put your content, you can reclaim it, and they delete the rest of the guy's content. And if you want to continue to keep that, it's your choice. And you can still continue.
You're making money off reclaim it and you're getting the money anyways.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So the thing is, you can very simply ask them to link that revenue to your revenue. And they do that. So I think these options are really great. Before we kind of wrap up, I would like to say we had a fantastic panel, and they're all here today to take offline questions. And we have a lot more people who have made IP from India into the room, and please continue to talk to them. And the whole thing is whether whatever budgetary constraint or big the quality parameters or any kind of requirement, continue to create IP to make your base stronger in the country, and that's something which is going to last you long. So thank you very much. And before we go, I would like to tell you that we have a legend today afternoon with us. His name is Sunil Tankamushi. He is standing quietly at the back. He actually is from Cochin. 2 decades ago, went to California and worked with Steven Spielberg. He's an animation director of Call of Duty and Medal of Honor and Turning Point and many more games. And he's going to talk about what he's doing in South India. In the next session, the emerging gaming industry in Southern India. So please make sure that while you talk to all the panel members offline, also make sure you attend that session. Thank you very much.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you had a nice lunch. So we will be starting off in another 2 to 3 minutes. Changing trends in regional television, ratings, contents and formats. We have the speakers, Mr. L.V. Krishnan, who is the CEO of TAM. We have Mr. Anup Chandrasekhar, Business Head, Asianet and Star Suvarna. We have Ms. Shruti Naidu, Director, Television Serials. We have Ms. Malavika Avinash, Actress and TV Personality. And the session will be moderated by Mr. Anil Vanwari, founder and CEO, IndianTelevision.com. So give a
very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Anil Vanwari. I run a group called IndianTelevision.com, which is runs sites like IndianTelevision.com, Telechecker.com, which actually writes about the lives of the lady next to me, who's a star out here in Canada, and also RadioandMusic.com. This apart, I also produce the Indian Tele Awards, which have been in for 13 years, and they're coming on Colors. And I have a fabulous panel here. These people are, they know a lot about the regional market, and let's get into the heads and find out what are the changing trends that the markets are facing. And to begin with, we'll have LVK, a man who's praised and pilloried by all in the broadcasting sector, depending on who's getting hurt, who's benefiting, but he does a good job. known him for many years. LV, let's begin with you. And what are the trends you're seeing in terms of regional television, let's say especially the southern market in terms of viewership? Are you seeing anything emerging now as far as content is concerned, as far as formats are concerned? What are the trends are you seeing? Are you seeing new time bands emerging?
South market is a very interesting arena for television. For years together, it's been one of the second biggest contributor to the national television space. When I say contribution to the national television space, it means the fact that the 4 southern states put together control 20% of the total viewing that happens on television, cable and satellite television in the country. It's the second biggest to Hindi general entertainment content, and virtually holds a strong position in the national space emphatically. There are 2 reasons for it. Okay? One is the fact that South television, consumption levels on television in a home is at least 30% more than any national home. In the sense that an average viewer in a for the southern 4 states consume almost 150 to 180 minutes of television on an average day. And it goes up to almost 200 minutes on a weekend, on a special weekend, when you have big movies happening in. When I look at a market like Uttar Pradesh or Punjab, the average consumption of television per day is around close to 110 minutes to 120 minutes. So therefore, there's a huge skew towards television viewing in the south more than the north and the west and the east, actually. Second is in terms of content proliferation. Okay. Each of the market is pretty unique in nature. Okay. In the sense the fact that markets like Tamil Nadu are heavily taken over by the Tamil content. Okay. While on the other hand, a market like Karnataka has a completely different behavior pattern, actually, where you have Kannada content, Tamil content, Hindi content, English content, as well as Telugu content subexist. Although Kannada as a genre is the biggest one and is continuing to grow in the last 5 years, it's been continuously growing in nature. It dominates the market with almost around 45% market share. The Kannada content is the largest dominating sector. But because the Karnataka is a split market, where, for example, in a market like Bangalore, you'll have only around 35% of the population Kannadigas, actually. Okay? You have Tamil population and a Telugu population coexisting in nature. Plus, as you go down to South Karnataka, you have a Tamil population coming in. As you go up North Karnataka towards Andhra Pradesh, you have the Telugu population coming in too. So therefore, viewing composition itself changes dynamically in the overall state itself, breaking down viewing numbers into splits, actually, splits of languages. The third big thing that's also happening in Karnataka is the increase in consumption happening for content adapted from other languages, specifically Hindi content getting dubbed in, not dubbed, or reproduced in Kannada language. And more so, with more and more reality shows taking the space of the screen, with big budget production coming into play, it's certainly driving consumption of television to a significant level. Added to that is Kannada movies, which is also seeing a spring up in terms of the audiences that it's bringing on when the premiering of the movies happen on television. And the fact that it premieres very fast, almost a year after the release of the movie, you're seeing audiences graduating slowly to television much more strongly than what it was in the past. So in all, I could sum it up saying the fact that Kannada television is on a growth path in terms of audience engagement with content. It's grown at almost around the last 5 years. If I take an aggregated level, it's grown at around 25 to 30% in terms of engagement levels. We see big budget programming coming in slowly to increase that engagement constantly. And therefore, I think the future years are going to see not just Kannada, but also Tamil and Malayalam and Telugu, all of them picking dramatically and probably increasing the share of the national presence from 20% share today to almost in the range of around 24 to 25% in the next 3 to 4 years.
Anup, you're a broadcast head. What are the trends you've seen, and do you agree with whatever LBK is saying, or you have a Slightly different point of view.
No, if we have to compare the South consumer vis-a-vis the HSM, the Hindi market consumer, as LV just mentioned, I would say the significant difference is that we in South India consume more television. We spend approximately 3.5 hours a day watching television, whereas in Hindi market, they spend only 2.5 hours a day. So there is a 30% increase in terms of consumption of television here in South. That's, I would say, is a very big difference.
That's across Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala.
Yeah, I'm talking South as a market.
Okay.
Now, second difference I would say is that of late, the consumption of fiction content in South has been increasing on a year-on-year basis. Whereas in HSM market, if you see, there is a degrowth in fiction. There has been a growth in non-fiction consumption. In South, especially I would say in Karnataka and in Malayalam and in Telugu, another interesting factor that is coming to the forefront is that there is a degrowth in film consumption, in consuming films. But there is a growth in film consumption in Tamil Nadu. So probably I will say, I know a lot of people in the film business are here. That's also largely I would give credit to the quality of films, that there is a good quality films that probably Tamil Nadu churns out, which television viewers are accepting, whereas in Karnataka there might be a problem. That's one of the key trends that we are seeing. So fiction, loyalty towards fiction-based content is on a growth phase. There is a degrowth in non-fiction. There is a degrowth in movie-related content. Another key important differentiator, if you ask me, between the HSM market and the South market is in terms of the cost. We spend approximately, I would say, even 10 to 15% is the kind of monies that we invest in probably in fiction and non-fiction content vis-a-vis the HSM market players. The other key factor, I would say, as far as South is concerned, is that we South Indians are, there is a phrase which says early to bed and early to rise. So we consume television even on, there is a good amount of television consumption in non-prime time, in early prime time. But in HSM market, you would see that even at 10:30 in the night, there was a time when Bade Acche Lagte used to do extremely well. But there is there is hardly any viewership post 10 o'clock. Probably in Tamil Nadu, there might be a small viewership post 10. But in South, we have not. In other markets, why I'm saying this is in Hindi markets, you will see that there is an exponential, there is a growth from early prime time to prime time. But that huge growth is not experienced in South. So these are some of the key takeaways, I would say, if you ask me, the comparison between the HSM market and the South markets. But I think one interesting fact that is emerging out of, that's happening in South markets is South has also started investing in big ticket formats. For instance, we in Star Network were the first people to bring in a program like Who Wants to Be or a KBC into South markets. Of course, ETV Colors has followed it up with Big Boss, but that's becoming what's happening on a day. I mean, people want to have differentiated content, so big ticket items is what every broadcaster is looking at. But I think there is also, at some point of time, we in Suvarna did not copy or adapt. We adapted some formats which is sensitive to local culture. And those kind of trends are also emerging. So it's a very interesting scenario that we in South markets are currently going through. And I think we are in a fairly interesting stage, especially in the digitization scenario and in the 10+2 scenario.
And we come to that later. On to the beautiful lady, Malavika. What has all this meant for an actor like you? I mean, in the sense that what has it done to your career, to your to how you can express yourself creatively? What has all this meant for you?
Hi, everybody. For me, it's been about 15 years on television, and also I've been part of a group in the broadcasting side also. It's been interesting. I played the protagonist 15 years ago, you know, when I was probably the self-righteous protagonist that does not exist on today's television 15 years ago.
They all have shades of grey.
Sorry?
They all have shades of grey, the protagonists.
Yes, it's not so righteous anymore. And that's how I started. It was in Kannada first and then in Tamil. I did what I did. You know, I played the woman who leads them all, you know, who says the right things, does the right things and all of that. And I did a bit of programming. Anup was a colleague at that time on Zee Kannada. I spent some time doing that as well. And now, of course, what can you say? I host the longest running reality show, which is homegrown. It's our take on Oprah Winfrey, but it's about alternate dispute resolution mostly and marital disputes. So yes, television has given me the opportunity to explore every single dimension as a woman that I have or as a person that I have. What I see extremely disturbing while I state all of this is that if you're talking content, then yes, a matter of concern for women my age, 30 plus, is that the quintessential heroine or the protagonist her age has fallen from what it used to be to 20s. So like, when I say self-righteous, I say it with a purpose, because today's protagonist is this 18-year-old, I hope everyone agrees with me on that, is this 18-year-old who's dreaming of a marriage, who's this innocent girl in a village, and who marries a rich man, knight in shining armor, and then goes to town, and then faces all the ugly wrath of, you know, the culture in town, and the mother-in-law is the quintessential aggressor. She plays the victim, and apart from the mother-in-law, now there is the sibling rivalry as well that is being explored in fiction. All that is really disturbing, because I think we have moved away from good, serious writing to what sells for that day. So that bothers me as an actor. I don't get to play the parts that I used to. There is no demand for those parts anymore. It's all these 20-year-olds fighting their 40-year-old mother-in-law. And that's all there is in television today. That's fiction. So that does bother me as an actor. I wish there was, because we moved away. I, for example, moved away from cinema because cinema was not allowing me to explore, you know, the actor that I was. Now television also is closing doors on me, so, which is why I land up with a reality show, where I still get to explore what I want to explore, but still that's not enough. So that's a very worrisome one. And I wonder if women have stopped growing old, you know, because women are the primary target audience. They have been, they always shall be. It's interesting to note that people like Anup really have played game changer in our market in Kannada. I can say that proudly because he came and asked the monopolizer to move over and he said, yes, there's going to be a new surge of energy. And that's how, because when Zee stepped in its inception, Karnataka was just all about Udaya, which was the market leader and which took away about 60 to 70% of the viewers, the middle class viewers, and then there was ETV, which was a distant second, and which was mostly for the elitist, the educated, you know, it was all value-based programming, and then Doordarshan disappeared by the time Zee came in, and then a new space had to be created between ETV and Udaya, when we were working in Zee, and Anup managed to do that fairly well. So yes, it's interesting to see how there's been a surge of younger people viewing Kannada television that never used to be. And if you ask all the people present here, I see a lot of film colleagues present here, I'm sure they'll all also agree with me on what LVK right in the beginning said, that the skew itself is so little. The viewership itself is so little. It's true of cinema, it's true of TV. Because Bangalore, you have a mix of everybody. Karnataka itself, you have a mix. Coastal viewing is different. North Karnataka views Hindi and Marathi. Hyderabad, Karnataka views Telugu. Kolar and other places view a bit of Telugu and Tamil. So we really have very little actual viewing population, be it cinema or television. So we fight our battles in this little market. And we are managing to survive. So that's what it is for starters.
You said you wanted to counter that?
No, what happened?
Before I finish, soaps have moved from Friday to Saturday. It would be nice if Anup throws light on that for us.
No, very clearly, soaps have moved on because we get better ratings than soaps than in films. As simple as that.
You should tell all of it.
No, because for instance, I'll tell you, when I put a Kannada film, I'm sorry if I'm hurting a few of them, when I put a Kannada film, the average TVR that I get is approximately 3 or 3.5, which is, for that I have to pay around 2.5 crores. But I put a 75,000 rupees fiction, I get 75,000 or a lakh, I get that TVR. Unless
And you get that much money back.
yeah, so we don't even recover 10% of our cost when we invest in films. 50% of the cost has to be written off. So that's the reason why, not only us, but even Udaya, of late, you would have seen, yes, they have moved from Monday to Friday to Saturday. And not only in our market, but even that's the case even in Kerala. We have moved from Monday to Friday to Saturdays. Films are not giving the, one, in the return of investment, and two, the viewership. So there is no other option for us than to extend our daily, our rice, our core content to Saturday.
Your rice sambar. Okay. Now, basically what she was saying is that the broadcasters are not giving them the opportunity in terms of programming, creating with older protagonists. Now, do you have something to say on that? Then we move on to Shruti to give her views on that.
No, I see broadcasters, I would say, today the challenge in front of the broadcasters is how do we get hold of the newer audiences? Because there is a certain, the 45 plus audience are extremely a loyal audience. So if they are loyal to a particular channel, it's very difficult to get them to move to another channel. I'm saying this based on our experience. So any television broadcaster, when he enters into the business, what he tries to see is how do you get the newer audiences to come and sample the channel? And then once the newer audiences come and sample the channel, they're hoping that the 45 plus also will join in. So when you're looking at the newer audiences, you need to create stories that will resonate with those younger audiences. So normally what happens, the younger audiences will resonate with a protagonist who's at 20, 25 plus. So, and what we've also increasingly seen is that when you have a protagonist like that, sometimes, the 45 plus also comes in, walks into that story. So that's been the trend. So there were days when, in fact, in the past, I've also experimented. In fact, Mr. Swami is here. We have done a fiction, which was a brilliant story about the problems an elderly person would face once he loses his wife. It's a brilliant story. But I'm sorry to say here that it didn't resonate with the audience, and midway through I had to wind up that. But that's the unfortunate, the way how people consume television. So we have to go with what people want.
Yeah. Shruti.
Namaskaram. See, first of all, I would like to offer Malavika a role in my next project as the protagonist. So I hope she's happy.
And this is on record, huh?
Yes.
You better hold her to.
I've been here since 2000. I entered as an anchor, then I became an actress, then I became a director, and today I'm a producer. I think the topic that really, it's quite exciting when I read that, changing trends in regional television. I think it has been a very nice journey for me because there was a lot of rise and a lot of viewership. When I used to be an anchor and an actress, there was very less response that I used to get. But today, when my protagonists are out, I see people coming and talking to them like stars. So I am pretty happy with the rise in the viewership. And as a creative person, the only thing I would always wish was, I see my cousins watching Mahabharata or Ramayana in Hindi or Tamil or Telugu, and I never have the liberty to do that to our channel because of the budget constraint. That's the only thing that has always, surprised me, because that is kind of a limitation for a creative person. If we would want to do something like,
you know, there's a serial that comes, it's called Rana Pratap, right? And it is so beautiful. And if I want to do something like that, you know, I feel we don't have the money to do that. And I would definitely want Mr. Anup to, you know, tell me what is it that is stopping them from giving us, the producers, that kind of a money.
So you're saying historicals and mythologicals,
Exactly.
the budgets are not there like in Hindi television.
Exactly.
But, you know, in terms of viewership, do these really do well even in Hindi television? The historic, I mean, Ramayana and Mahabharata in the early days on Doordarshan were different. But post that, I don't think they've really got that much traction even on Hindi television, as much as the daily fictional soaps which come on the Hindi channels.
Anil, it's the way, I think, as Malvika rightly pointed out earlier, it's the way the story is adapted and presented to the audiences. It's all the formats, okay? In the sense the fact that there is nothing that stops audiences from coming and watching a Maito. You may classify it as a Maito, but for the audience, it's an interesting story that is on. For example, take the example of the Shiva mythology that's happening in a channel called Life OK. It's doing extremely well, actually.
You're saying Mahadev.
Mahadev, exactly. Not only that, the Mahabharata has come in now once again in a different format. So if you now compare the Mahabharata of present way in which it's produced and telecast compared to the Mahabharata that was done by the Chopras, actually, you see the difference in the quality of the imaging and the actors and the characters.
But
and the
is the
sets,
money
etc.
coming in? Is there
Now-
revenue? Are the viewers coming in?
Yeah, the viewers are now jumping into it because it opened up at a phenomenal number, okay, in terms of sheer audience size.